Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of Meet the Bird Gang. We have someone that deserves great congratulations, a 2018 member of the Orleans Firebirds. It's Kade Mechals, and Kade, you were drafted in the fourth round, 112th pick by the Chicago White Sox in the 2020 MLB Players Draft.
12th pick of the 2020 MLB Draft, the Chicago White Sox select right-handed pitcher Kade.
Just watching it, I get chills. Years and years of hard work and sacrifice, well worth it. Just that one moment.
Before we get into your journey to get there, we do have to address, you do have the brace on, the Tommy John surgery, which you got after your third start on the 28th of February at Stanford. Mm-hmm. So, and that too was an impact on the draft.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Once it happened, I was just keeping my fingers crossed and working out and doing everything I could do. Wouldn't say it's easy by any means, but you work hard. You have the right training staff that knows what they're doing, which the White Sox do. And a lot of times the people that get Tommy John, they come back throwing harder and better.
We appreciate it so much having you and other ball players come on, give the fans something to cheer for, kind of go through your journey.
If I ever got a paper that said, what do you want to be when you grow up? I always put professional baseball player. When I was really young, like 5, 6, 7, if I could be the bat boy, if I could go out and shag BP before games, that kind of stuff. I ended up on a team with a former 2018 Firebird, Kenyon Yovan. We grew up playing together, going to Arizona, going all over the states to play. Parker Kelly, former Firebird. Just so many names that I grew up playing with, and just getting used to that level of competitiveness and that level of just focus and passion for the game. So in high school, I ended up not getting a single D1 offer. And I was just like, what the heck? Like, I play with these guys. I'm right there with these guys. I just wasn't physically there. I was the guy in high school that was the late bloomer.
I'm looking at your high school stats here. We have 15-16, your senior year.
Mm-hmm.
ERA under 1, you're 5-0, and you get a save. Out of high school, getting no offers, did that kind of set you on a path of, okay, it's time to just prove people wrong? And like you said, like, I'm the man. It's time to go do me and get my work.
It did. Like, I was so bitter for so long. Like, I wasn't like a total jerk to people by any means, but it was just like I would watch Oregon State play, and I'd just be like, I should be out there with them. They're like that. I should be on that team. And every time I'd watch, there'd be like this like fire in my, like, just this burning, like I just wanted to hit something kind of thing. So I just kind of resented those programs for so long. That's kind of been my MO, and kind of my story is just overlooked. I love it, honestly. At this point, I embrace it. It fires me up.
Then you play for a bunch of club teams: Baseball Northwest, Metro Baseball, Northwest Diamond, Mound Time, Dirtbags Legion. Anything that sticks out from those?
My Legion team, the Dirtbags, our coach was the assistant coach at Western. And so I came to him and I was like, hey man, can I join? Can I play here? I go there. I work my way into a closing role. Those are still some of my closest friends. And honestly, that was my most fun year in college.
For the next season, you go to Skagit as you have the hat on there. What's one story, one memory that really encapsulates JUCO baseball?
It's one of those things where you have to go through it, because there are no rules and no regulations in junior college baseball. So I remember my JUCO year, we had to show up at the ballpark at 3:00 in the morning, and if anybody was late, it was just going to be track practice, and we were just going to run. And so it was wet and dewy and cold, and the lights are on. I knew the lights are on. Like, it's 3:00 in the morning, it's dark. And we played a scrimmage from whenever they got done. We ended up finishing right around like 7:00.
Oh man. That's like hell week. This sounds like a boot camp over here.
Yeah, but it was like that's just what we did. JUCO's its own experience, man. Don't sleep on those junior college kids.
That leads you to Orleans. And walk me through the process. When did you first think you were going there? How did you get in contact with Coach Kelly Nicholson? Old Skip. How those events transpire for you? And then when you finally realized that dream.
Door, who was my pitching coach and the guy that said, we're going to bump up your scholarship, he was the one that's like, we're going to get you to the Cape. He was just telling me, like, you're a Cape player. We're going to get you out there. I remember I got the call that I got from Skip called and said, you're a Firebird, essentially. And right once I got off the phone, I started tearing up because I was just like, oh, my gosh. Like, I never thought that I would get this far.
Uh-huh.
And so it just meant so much to me to go out and then pitch for the Firebirds and then be in the Cape with Quinn, who's at GCU. And that was the first year we've ever sent multiple people out to the Cape.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also want to say, have a huge shout out to the Brickman household, Brickman family, Elaine Brickman. She's awesome. Best host mom in the country. So she was awesome. She made my time there a blast. We'd come back home after games. Every game there'd be food out there on the table for us. She would always make this spaghetti and sausage bowl, and she'd make a ton of it. And so that would be our lunch for the week. She had a dog, Luna. Loved that dog. Yeah, she was just awesome. Like she welcomed us with open arms, and her house was the second home on the East Coast for us. So, yeah, I miss her. I miss her family. I just miss being out on the Cape. When we did have a free day, we would usually go to the beach, go hang out there. 4th of July in Orleans. The parade was that was pretty cool. I really liked that.
Kelly Nicholson, he is known for really working with pitchers and improving them. And he took over as the pitching coach with Orleans in 2001. He's been managing since 2005. His teams have led the CCBL and ERA 7 times.
Well, if you ever talk to him, which I know you have, he's extremely present and very mindful with everything that he does and says. He helped me go one pitch at a time by some of the drills that we would do, like the mind up where we're laying down and visualizing before games. Or we did this other thing where it was a 10x10 grid and you got to check off numbers 1 through 100 as fast as you can. Just little things like that to just keep you mindful and teach you that if you look at this 10x10 grid as a 10x10 grid, it can be overwhelming. Or if you look at the game as a 9-inning game, you still got 27 outs. You're only third inning, so it can get kind of overwhelming. But if you go pitch by pitch, pretty soon those pitches will end up in outs, and those outs will end up in innings, and those innings hopefully will end up in a win. So just being present, slowing the game down, breathing, and tempo. Those were his big things, and I try to do those and try to work on those, and I still try to do those.
So it sounds like he's made a lasting impact. He's a West Coast guy too, so kind of can relate that way as well. Yeah. How do you think facing all those D1 guys prepared you for GCU and prepared you for your time at Grand Canyon? Because before that, you've been pitching so well, but you haven't really been tested against the cream of the crop. But that's what the Cape is. It's the best players, and you pitch well. So you 5 games, 4 starts, 3.85, 19 strikeouts. How did you – after that, did you feel like, hey, I'm ready? What was the process like going from the Cape and then preparation for life at D1 ball?
I'm not going to lie. I was pretty intimidated the first, week out there. And even through, my first couple starts, because I've only ever faced people of that caliber in very, very short stints. It'd be like a batter in a lineup. You know, it'd be like when McMinnville plays Sherwood in high school, and I have to pitch against Adley, or I have to pitch against West Lynn, and I'm pitching against Will Matheson, who was in Harwich. So it was just one batter in the lineup versus the entire lineup is the guy at their respective school.
Yeah.
And just seeing, I still remember my first batter, Zach Watson, LSU center fielder. I remember watching him on TV that year. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is real. Like, this guy, I watched you on TV. Like, and now I'm pitching against you. So to even think that I would get to the Cape my senior year, I would have said, maybe. Like, I'm doubtful, but yeah, I mean, it was crazy. But when I got back to GCU, it just gave me a whole nother level of confidence in myself as a pitcher. Just because I was like, well, I'm still pitching against really good baseball players, but I'm not facing that caliber every single batter. You know what I mean? So it was just attack mode.
Did Al Leiter ever come through?
He did. Yeah, he came and talked to us once out there. Yeah, he was awesome, and he just reiterated the fact that there are going to be days when you're sore and you're tired, and you're in the dog days of the summer, and everybody's arm hurts or everybody's sore, everybody's broken down, but you just got to find a way. And he said one of his best outings ever in professional baseball, his velo was down like 5 miles an hour, and he's like, I'm just not going to go above the knees with anything. Everything's going to be down. And he got a lot of ground balls, and he got a lot of strikeouts, and ended up going like a complete game shutout.
I also got to ask you about, meeting the other players, whether that be on your team or on opposing teams. I know Quinn Cotton, who, for those who were watching, here on the video post, he's the one who took the video of you on draft day. You guys are very close teammates at GCU. He's playing at Harwich. So what was it like just meeting the other guys and seeing a couple familiar faces too out there?
It was awesome. That was an awesome experience. I love those guys. We're still in touch. we have a Snapchat group chat, and we were just talking today about some of the memories and stuff that were going on 3 years ago. So, it was a lot of fun. I loved picking brains out there. I remember I would try to stand in right field with JJ and pick his brain about what he's thinking as a hitter, because he's a hell of a ball player. He's a really good hitter. So I was like, well, if I could figure out what he's thinking and figure out how to manipulate him when he's up and get him out, I can get anybody out.
Mm-hmm. And that's JJ Blade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the Marlins.
So,
right now, he's just
yep. Yeah. So it'd be just stuff like that. Or Graham Stenson he had some sort of like sock, weird, I don't know. He had some weird stuff going on with he like threw this ball into a sock or something or other, but just picking his brain about his road to where he's at. He was a USA baseball player. Just picking his brain about how we learned his slider, because his slider is disgusting. What does he do? What does he think when he's pitching? What does he see? That kind of stuff. Because these guys are good, and everybody's got their own story, and everyone's got their own things that they do really well. If you can add another tool to the tool belt, you're just that much more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then what's it like seeing Quinn facing off against each other for the first time? You're ragging on each other. What's happening there? Any other guys that you knew on the Cape there in that 18th season?
Well, I never got to face Quinn. I always ended up pitching the day before we would play YD. But no, it's fun. It was so much fun. There were a bunch of guys out there that I had no idea were out there, and running into them, reconnecting. It was a lot of fun. It was like going back to travel ball days almost.
Last thing about the Cape, I'm going to get us another screen share here. This is you with the 18 sideline reporter. After 1 year, I'm sure as soon as we get into the video, you'll remember which game it was.
Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember this interview. I'm so bad with interviews and anything that has to do with the camera and that kind of stuff. And I was trying to be so cool.
The Orleans Firebirds walk away with the 5-0 win here at Eldridge Park. Welcome to the OFBN post-game show. I'm Elioff Gabay, and with me is pitcher Kade Mechals. And Kade, how important is it to get a win going into a 3-game road trip?
It's big. We're 4-7 coming into today, now 5-7. So just to get any momentum we can to ride into this road trip is big for us. And we were in a lot of those games. We lost some of those games by 1 run, which we could have easily flipped it on it and been 7-4. So hopefully we can just ride the momentum and get a couple wins on the road.
Well, you, in your last 2 appearances, you've had 10 strikeouts. That's 9 innings pitched and only 1 earned run. Why do you think you've been feeling it so far?
Our objective as staff, our goals as staff is just work ahead. Strike 1, strike 2. And I felt like I've done a pretty good job of that, of getting ahead of guys. And once you get ahead of guys, you can really bury it. You can really bury hitters. And then on top of that, just not walking people is huge. It's huge, and that's what I've been doing.
Rambling now.
Is when I've given up on runs, it's just on the walks. So as a staff, our stuff is really good. So as long as we can limit walks and get first pitch strikes, we'll be really good.
Well, I definitely agree with that. Now, you're gunning for that full-time, full-summer contract. Is there any extra motivation when you go onto the mound knowing that the opportunity isn't necessarily guaranteed, but is there any added motivation there?
Definitely. But I just try to not let it get to me. I just got to trust my stuff and know that I can get hitters out. So that's really all it is. I'm just trying to throw strikes and get guys out.
Just throw strikes and get guys out. That's a pretty good method in my book. Well, tomorrow, the team will be headed to YD to face the Red Sox at 5 p.m. Thanks so much, Kade.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Elioff Gabay. This has been the OFBN postgame show.
Quickly go right to another share. This will kind of segue us well into your first year at GCU. This is opening night of 19.
Yes, against Wichita State. Yeah, I was more nervous for my first outing in Orleans than I was with this. This one was just the new, like the renovated stadium. There were like 4,000 people, I want to say, in attendance. So just pitching in front of that big crowd and with the student section and that kind of stuff was kind of nerve-wracking in itself. But no, once I get strike 1 and I'm like somewhere near the zone, I'm like, oh yeah, we're just playing baseball. So yeah, and then I ended up punching out the side this year and last year actually. Yeah. Okay. My fastball, I just throw a standard 4-seam fastball, straight up, nothing really to it. Tuck my thumb under, space it out, more control. The only thing I think about when I'm throwing my fastball is I really try late effort of ripping the seams off of the ball and coming down and getting this boom, like almost like when that pressure when you snap. This right here, I want that and whipping through the pitch to generate a ton of ride through the zone and backspin. My next pitch, the one that I'm kind of known for, is my changeup. It's just a standard circle change on the 2-seam here. That's where I go. I have bigger, longer fingers, and so I put the seams. Try and get an angle here. I put the seams of the ball right here into where my fingers meet my palm. Basically, I want to grip it light, but I want the ball to stick. I can throw this pitch without my thumb on there. Thumb just gives it another little bit of control, and just I know where it's going. And I've played with it enough to where sometimes I'll move my pinky up and throw it right here and really pull down through these two fingers to get more of a dive. I've also gripped it tighter to get more velocity behind it, to throw it more as almost like a screwball almost. And then I'll spread them out for more control, a little bit more of a straight change.
Yeah. Because I've seen in that video against Oklahoma State where the changeup, veers away from the left-hand hitter in towards the right, like a screwball.
Yeah, it's almost like a reverse slider. There are times when I can manipulate the ball and really pull down and get true four-seam spin, but it drops and it moves like a left-handed slider almost. Mm-hmm. So I can get it on a back foot to a right-hander. I love throwing my changeup to right-handers because no one expects that.
Yeah, so, no one expects the changeup coming in like that.
Yeah, and so then that's my next pitch. I throw a slider. I learned this from Mariano Rivera, just on YouTube. I wanted to learn a cutter, and so the way he describes it is he goes standard four seam, and then the thumb right here rotates under, and when it rotates, the ball's going to naturally kind of do this. So I go here, and I put a little bit of pressure on this on the middle finger, and then it's going to naturally set your wrist. So you just lock out the wrist. Now, instead of throwing it through here and ripping the seams off here, now I'm trying to rip the seams off this way. And like I've heard a lot of people say, cut the catcher in half when you're throwing it. That never really clicked with me. I know it clicks with a lot of people, but ripping the seams this way, but not coming around it. It's out front whippy, and it's going to come off and roll this way off. So I still get kind of more of a four-seam spin. And that's one thing that kind of frustrates me a little bit when I watch pitchers or people ask me, well, how do you throw your changeup? This is how I throw mine. And they show me a two-seam grip, but they throw a four-seam fastball. Like that's, in my opinion, it's just like that's not very smart. Like the whole point of a changeup is to deceive the hitter and get them out front and get them in between guessing. So you just want to hide the spin as much as possible to create deception. Because the longer you could throw 85 and blow it by some of the best hitters, just because if it's the same spin and they don't know if it's going to be 85 or if it's going to be 80 or if it's going to be 75, you can't tell. So now I'm just on my soapbox, but
no, we love it. We love it.
Yeah, but like I remember I also watched a video. I'm a huge YouTube guy. I think there's a lot of knowledge to be learned on YouTube, and I just fall in holes pitching videos and all sorts of stuff. And there's a story of somebody says to Greg Max, like, how did you do it? Why were you so good when you didn't throw hard and you were this and you were that? And he takes him outside and he points at a car and he goes, if I told you that car was going 60 miles an hour, would you believe me? And he goes, yeah. And then the next car goes by and I go, what, if I told you that guy was going 55 miles an hour, would you believe me? And he goes, yeah. He goes, that's pitching. Because it's deception. You know what I mean? If the hitter can't pick up the difference between a 75 or a 75 mile an hour pitch and an 85 mile an hour pitch,
they have no chance.
That 85 is going to explode on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So my whole goal is to try and hide the spin. And so I'll play around with grips and try and manipulate the ball in a way where it's coming out in the same way as my four-seam fastball. Everything is around the four-seam fastball. And then that brings me to my curveball, which I'm here, and I get the same spin, just reverse. It's going forward as opposed to back spin.
And the curve is all about spin.
Yeah, everything's about spin. You want tight spin on everything.